Harbor Freight, built for two people like me.
Love you.
God, we killed it. I'm saying this shit. You know what I'm saying? On the internet, and then all the evidence they have from Jump Street, like you feel like they just couldn't solve their case, and if that ain't what it was, why the fuck are we trying to? They never had no evidence.
Mark Queen, Marlon. Shout out to you, Marlon. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Marlon, yeah. Marlon, shout out to you.
We killed a nigga. I'm saying this shit. You know what I'm saying? And then wrote a book.
30 seconds, the show is going to start.
But he did a profit. All right, so look, I know he did a profit in 08, right? So they can't charge him with nothing except in profit. California. Okay. So remember, this crime happened in Nevada. That's what you're saying. This crime happened in Nevada. Different jurisdiction. See, the officers that proffered him couldn't run to Nevada and say, hey, we'll be your witness. He said this. They couldn't do that. This stupid went on the internet.
He said, I hope you're having an amazing, blessed day. Thank you for that. Thank you. Very positive message right there. I welcome it. Let me know what part of the world you are from, and let me know if you have liked and subscribed to the most epic mixed martial arts channel in the history of mankind. I'm going to tell you why I'm making that bold statement, right? Because not only do I cover MMA, but that is the basis of the whole entire channel. But that also encompasses doing topics on geopolitics, doing topics on crime, drama, and what have you. So this sort of fits right into that general description. So, a couple of things I need people to understand, right? There's a life lesson to be learned from all of this, right? People change on you in over the years, right? It's never the same person that you were dealing with all the time. In fact, the person that you are dealing with today may be a different person tomorrow, depending on the set of circumstances that come their way. What type of pressure is being put on them? For example, what type of animosity are they dealing with on a daily basis? And are they willing to deal with that animosity as opposed to, let's say, the conflict that they have to ensued as a result of their defiance, right? Oftentimes, and many people have this notion that the streets is a myth. Okay, and this goes into the subject of what we're talking about with the Keefe D trial, right? Well, what do they mean when they say that the streets are a myth? Well, they are saying that there's not really anybody that is real anymore. And by real, they mean somebody that is willing to commit heinous acts in the name of an honor, right? In the name of defending your honor, right? Because to the outside world, this type of mentality is not necessarily something that is going to be understood, right? But if you grew up in an environment where it was violent, or the most violent person gets most of the respect, garners most of the attention, and in that regard, gains the most influence, right? In that world, people understand that it is swing first or get swung on. For the other normies of the world, I think they have a different understanding of how they look at the world, how they look at life, and how they look at um, how they would handle things. Okay, for example, I'll give you a classic example, right? For those of you that, let's say, own a property, right? What do you do if a tenant doesn't pay you? What do you do, right? Well, I'll tell you what the average person does. I'm not telling you what I would do, okay? But this is what the average person would do. They would call the police and they would say, "Hey, I have a person that's living in my house that's hasn't been paying rent, and I want him out." Okay, so guess what? Under the state California politics, guess how you're going to have to go about that? You're going to have to go about that in a due process matter where you have to go through the courts, you have to go through the sheriffs. First off, the sheriffs are going to come there, escort them. That's probably like the last of the entire thing, right? That's probably the last of it, right? That's probably the last thing that's going to happen if you can even get that far. The bottom line is, he says, "Can you H? What do you mean? Can you H? You're gonna have to explain to me what that means." He says, "Can you give me a mod?" Um, well, how long have you been here? Is this your first time in the channel? If so, let me know. Because I have a rule where if you want to be a mod, um, you're going to have to come to this show 3 times in a row, right? And if you demonstrate that you've come to the show 3 times in a row as as a participant, right? A very yeah, good participant, then yeah, says yeah, first time. Okay, so yeah, shout out to Marty, man. Shout out to you, my man. How's it going, man? Um, just wanted to let you know that hopefully I get into the scouting report with what we were talking about. So inshallah. By the way, for those of you that are wondering what me and Marty are talking about, I like to do a little scouting report on the regional side of of things. I love I love MMA, period. That's just really what it comes down to, right? MMA is, you know, I know it's cliche to say, but it saved my life. Okay. A lot of people love to say that. Um, but to what degree did it save their life? He says, yeah, that fluffy fight was good. There's a life lesson to that as well, right? I noticed that there were a lot of people that gave Fluffy some good props even after the fact, right? And I thought that was really beautiful to highlight, right? Tyler Diamond. I don't know if you're familiar with him. You know, Team Alpha Male Fighter. He kind of has like a hick accent. Me and him actually got into it a few times online over political arguments, as you would imagine. It's natural. You know, he's a white boy, country white boy who loves Charlie Kirk. I mean, he's like so in love with Charlie Kirk, okay? And you know that's just how he thinks. You know, I'm an Arab guy that grew up internationally, that happened to have had experience in the Marine Corps. I mean, it doesn't get any more American than that. Growing up in the East Coast, in Old Bridge, New Jersey, it doesn't get more American than that. Being in my entire adult life in California, oh, it doesn't get more American than that, right? It's the American dream, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I got to say, right? But speaking of American dream, that's what Fluffy is living right now, the true American dream. And let me tell you why, right? He is still one of the top fighters in the world. Okay, this loss doesn't mean anything. You know what? Mayweather said it best. Okay, and it's a little bit of an understatement coming from him, being that he's undefeated. He said that when you are at this level, there is no losing. And I never really understood what he meant by that when he said it like that, right? What did Floyd mean when he said that there is no losing at this level? What does he mean by that? What does he mean by that when he says there is no losing at this level? When you lose at that level, first of all, let's talk about the prelim fighters, right? The prelim fighters are making somewhere between 10 and 10. Okay. That is what prelim fighters are making, 10 and 10. Okay. Maybe 20 and 20 if you're lucky, right? So 10 to show up, 10 to win. Okay. That's a very tough life. Okay, when you are a top 10 fighter, you're paid a salary whether you win or you lose. Okay, that's the level that Fluffy is at. So when Floyd says, and again, it's an understatement coming from him, being that he retired undefeated, right? Obviously, in a sport where there's a lot of cherry picking going on, especially from his part. ID Wank says, "Hey folks, hey ID Wank, how are you, my man?" Um, Victory says, "What's up, Nobi?" Okay, so that's another name that you go by as well, Nobi. Yes, Nobi. Okay, I think that's much better, shorter, right, straight to the point. So okay, there's no losing for Fluffy at this point, right? He's what, number 7 or number 6 going into this fight? Surprisingly, he's actually higher ranked than Israel Adesanya, to my surprise, right? Um, he has that under his belt. He's never fought Israel Adesanya. I imagine there is there any appetite for Israel Adesanya and Fluffy? How do you think that goes? You know what? I think there's a 50-50 uh, in that matchup. Think about it, right? Izzy is not the same person as he once was. Then he goes and switches to another team, another camp, right? A team that would probably be a lot more. Right. So Marty says that's actually a good matchup. Yes. So think about it, right? There's a 50-50 element to this. Israel Adesanya changed camps, and as a result of changing camps, he goes and decides to, I guess, bring his game to a different level, right? Whatever that may mean for Israel Adesanya at this point, right? Because the older that you get, yes, it's a little bit harder to kind of change ways. By the way, Keefe D is walking into the courtroom right now. So as we are reacting to this trial, So the airbender is still a phenom? No, he's not actually. And this is why it would be a good matchup, right? Because we want to know, is Fluffy, a real top 10 guy, right? Because Israel Adesanya is number 11 right now. Um, Prior to Saturday night, Anthony Hernandez was number 6. Okay. Victory says Izzy is on the back 9, but he can still fight. Yes, look, honestly, it's a bit of a selfish, endeavor for me, to be quite honest with you, right? Because of course I would want Anthony Hernandez to get that kind of clout fighting a guy like Israel Adesanya. By the way, we're going to cover the trial, but we'll also continue with the UFC conversations as well, because obviously it is still an MMA channel by the end of the day, and I love MMA more than anything. But nothing more than I love as well as a little good crime drama story. I mean, look at the book in the background right there, right? This is all that I study all day. Organized crime, guns, violence, MMA, people beating up other people talking trash to other people. That's what the channel is all about, baby. So Victory says, right, that's why it's a great fight, competitive, but it would be a good win for Fluffy. Yes. Yes, and a very winnable fight for Fluffy. So once again, people were giving some good words of encouragement to Fluffy, as they should. He says that's why you'll love the mayor of Kingston. By the way, what network is that on, Marty? Right, just so I can really lock it into a watch list. Is it on Paramount or is it on Netflix? Paramount. Okay, got it, got it. More Paramount, man. Man, them boys, with the long nose got me again, bro. You know what I mean? Like, one minute I thought that I was only gonna get on Paramount to watch the UFC fights. Now all of a sudden I'm into the agency. Now all of a sudden I'm into sheriffs. Now all of a sudden I'm into landman. You know what I mean? Now all of a sudden I'm into mayor of Kingston. Oh man, they did it to me again. Ariel Hawani and his people did it to me again, y'all. Oh no! Dun 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 dun. We are God's chosen people. How dare you? You speak to us this way. All right. So, okay, on to the Keefe D trial now.
I think with Mr. Dwayne Davis had no involvement in the Biggie Smalls. And we've admonished the jury that there is no indication that he has anything to do with that at this point. But ultimately, the nexus of this investigation was such that they were investigating together, for better or for worse.
Tell me that the lawyer has to be played by Johnny Depp if this ever becomes a movie. He says, I could actually see you playing the role of the main character in that show. I can't wait until you watch it. What when he says mayor of Kingston, right? What part of the world, or obviously this is in the United States, right? What city in the United States does this take place in? Is that in the East Coast? I would assume Midwest, Michigan. Wow. Okay, Michigan. Very interesting. Okay.
From here on out, given the parties' dual request, I'll read the tomorrow's instruction.
Okay, Kingston, Michigan. I didn't know that was such thing, because when we talk about Michigan, usually we talk about Detroit, um, Michigan State University, right where Magic Johnson used to play ball at, Dearborn, which is all in the Detroit area, but Kingston, yeah, that's okay, that's very interesting. Midwest, okay. Crips, Bloods, uh, Aryan Brotherhood, and the cartel. Oh my goodness, yeah. Okay. Okay, that sounds plausible. There are Crips in the Midwest. There are Crips, especially in Houston, Texas. There's a lot of Rolling 60s elements there, right? See, the Rolling 60s, because they were the hood that was depicted by the Boys in the Hood. For those of you that don't know, Boys in the Hood is based on the Rolling 60 Crips, right? And their sworn enemy, the Inglewood Bloods. So that's basically, being played out in the screen for you if you didn't know the involvement between them, right? So because they are rolling 60s, they were in the Boys in the Hood, they have this really strong uh brand in the gang world, right? Like, of course, if you're in New York, if you're going to be a Crip, you're going to want to get put on with Rolling 60s because there's a name value to it. Brim, right? I know Bloods in New Jersey that come from Brim, right? But never been in LA. Um, Victory says all involved in the show, and of course, the biggest gang, the Five. Oh, yes, yes, of course, yes. Tupac said it best, right? He said that, the police ain't nothing but a effing gang. Everybody is an effing gang. And yeah, he says, the final season has been badass. Sicario kid gets involved with things. Ooh, okay. All right. No, no spoilers. Wait, let's see what the judge is talking about here.
What is it? The shooting is there for credibility of the statements of defendant, motive, and identity?
Yes, in his book, he starts off with my first criminal conviction is shooting anyone I'll get by hostage. Drives to get that. That comes in. What shouldn't come in if he wants a limiting instruction on is the 2000.
By the way,
I don't know if they would want
I started off listening to the audiobook of Keefe D, right? And he does mention an unaliving right off the bat. He mentions it right off the bat, and he talks about his identity as as a gang member. So they're using all of this to basically corroborate uh, statements that show this is what this man is capable of. Like he is capable of. So here's the problem with the Keefe D thing, right? I think that this man could have just kept his mouth shut, could have not said anything, and could have easily just gotten away with this, but had decided to run his mouth based on what? Maybe because he needed money, because he needed to garner some sort of um, revenue from this. And this is what I say to a lot of dudes that are gangsters, military people, and MMA fighters, right? I tell them, you have to do a podcast. If you are one of the three that I just mentioned, right? Or if you did all three, even better, because you would have a very interesting life story to talk about, right? But if you're a gang member, mafia person, military, or um, a fighter, you know what all of these three things have in common, aside from the fact that you're an adrenaline junkie, right? The three things that these things have in common is that it is a depleting lifestyle. Think about this, right? If you are about that life, if you are involved in a life of crime, it is a depleting process. Going to courts, having to pay lawyers, having to pay bail, uh, even, I don't know, I guess putting hits out on people and paying for them, right? All these things are depleting to your resources. Of course, there are other means that you're expanding your resources by strong arm tactics of some sort. But the reality is, it's a depleting process. Being in the military is a depleting process. You're carrying heavy packs all day. You're hiking around in miles and miles of lands, right? Busting your knees, breaking your back, and then on top of that, the ultimate sacrifice. All of these things are an ultimate sacrifice. You can absolutely die in gangbang, and you can absolutely die in deployment overseas. You can absolutely die in the ring. These are all real life consequences and realities to these things, right? So you're giving your life to this, And what gives? What gives is that what you need to do is that you need to monetize this experience. Of course, if you are living that life, or if let's say you have security clearance with an intelligence agency or the intelligence apparatus of, let's say, one of the military branches, right? Because as you know, they do have intel as an MOS in the Air Force, intel in the Army, intel in the Marine Corps, intel in the Navy, right? So all these things you would have security clearance, right? So if you were to go as a public figure and do a podcast, obviously there would be a lot of NDAs that you would have to sign, a lot of um, government secrets that you can't disclose. So that it's the same thing with gangsters, right? There are certain things that you can't disclose, like you can't disclose an ongoing case or an unaliving or a murder that you are a part of. It's just not what you do in that world. But yeah, just wanted to kind of explain to you that if you are in that world, the best thing to do, you got to go and get a podcast, because otherwise, what good was that life for if you can't tell your story? And you know what? Keefe D did exactly that. He told his story because you know what? The thing with Keefe D and Suge Knight, right? It's the tale of the haves and the have-nots. Here are two guys that both came from the same neighborhood, two different gangs, but the same neighborhood, rival neighborhood at that. But as a result, one was more successful than the other. One became an NFL player, executive, bodyguards for many of the top acts in the business, right? Suge Knight worked with Bobby Brown. Um, so so yeah, man. Um, that's the reality of this. That's the reality of this. You it's a game that depletes you, so you might as well try to gain from it while it's trying to deplete you from living your life to the fullest.
So there is no privileged communication that occurs between Mr. Davis and his attorney. Even at one point, you're going to hear Mr. Davis say, "Hey, hold on, this is a hot month."
Let's bring him in and do a short evidentiary hearing then on that issue of attorney-client privilege.
Sure.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, so there seems to be a little bit of some argument between the judge and the plaintiff right now.
Limited issue outside the presence, and then ultimately on the termination. I understand Mr. Crawford, that's what he's gonna say, but I'd rather have it flashed out. Bring in Mr. Dorsey, just Mr. Dorsey, no jerks. No jerks yet.
Okay, so they're bringing in no jurors yet. What does that mean? So are the jurors there yet or not? Victory says, "I'll be back later. I'm not a fan of this court stuff. It's depressing to me." Why? Well, you know what? Okay, in that regard, I mean, there's not much going on in the court right now. I'll go back to it when there is some action going on. We'll just stick with the MMA talk for now. But let's see. So, okay, the other stuff we wanted to talk. How about RAF, right? So let's take a look at the RAF results that have happened recently. So um, Henry Cejudo got Henry Cejudo got a pin over Marab, like literally 36 seconds into the matchup. 36 seconds. He got a pin. That's high level stuff. Obviously, the second time around, or no, the first time around, Marab got the best of that win. But yeah, let's take a look at the results overall right here. So let's see here. Gable Stevenson defeats Anthony Casapio 6-0. The newly signed Gable Stevenson. Kennedy Blades defeats Reese by a technical fall. Okay. Max McNeely. This was a pretty competitive matchup right here against Bo Nickel. Obviously, Bo Nickel, one of the best American wrestlers, gets beat by Max McNelly. See, I don't know much about this Max McNelly guy. I'll tell you what I like about this RAF stuff, right? So I don't know. who this Max McNeely guy is. He's obviously very good, right? He's obviously a very good wrestler for him to beat Bo Nickel. Because outside of MMA, Bo Nickel is a dominant powerhouse in the world of wrestling. But I don't know who Max McNeely is now that he beat a big name like Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel being a very big UFC star now, right? A platform that he took from his college days and then bringing it into MMA. He's got a big platform now. Max can benefit from that clout a little bit. So shout out to Max McNeely on that one. Jason Dolph defeats Evan Wick. And not really a lot of names that I know. Jesse Mendez defeats Vladimir via 0.72. David Carr, a little familiar with that name, defeats Salikosnov 5-4. Johnny D defeats Asu Umbalayev. Oh, technical fall. See, there's another UFC guy right there, right? Another UFC guy. And credit to the UFC loaning their guys out here. And then there's the Tyron Woodley matchup with Joaquin Buckley. Of course, Tyron Woodley was going to do that to Joaquin Buckley, right? It's what Tyron Woodley does, right? And that's why a lot of people I think underestimate this Kamzat Tyron Woodley wrestling match. Remember, it's not MMA for sure. If Tyron Woodley was to come back to MMA right now and fight Kamzat Chimaev, that would not necessarily be the most competitive matchup. You know what I mean? In MMA. But in wrestling, yes, Tyron Woodley is a highly decorated All-American wrestler. And then in other matches, Kadik defeats Will Lewin, and Ono defeats David Davino, 4-0 points, and that is the RAF matchup for you. And then also in other news, Ryan Garcia and Connor Benn is coming up um, September 12th, the Noche card, Mexican Independence Day. The winner of that may face Theo Lopez, right? Theo Lopez had a very good performance against Raleigh. I don't know what Raleigh was thinking in that fight. I think that he thought going the patient route was going to help. Look, I see this a lot with fighters that hesitate a lot, right? I had very similar problems doing this in sparring because look, I knew that I could hit really hard, right? So I didn't want to go and hit any of my sparring partners, but in a fight it was different. Okay, if you put me in a fight where, all right, we're going to sign up for this day and you're going to compete with this guy and you're going to train this amount of weeks to do it, no problem, right? I have no physical attachment to that person, right? I can absolutely turn on my sociopathic mode and go bananas on this person, right? Straight banana clips AK on this person. But if it was a person that I know, a person that I train with, right? I'm not going to go and hurt them. And then there's a rule in the training room, right? You never want to break your toys. Okay, that's one thing that a lot of young fighters have to, really understand, right? Never want to break your toys, right? So if you got a group of guys that you train with, take care of them. Don't try and hurt them, right? Make sure that you get the best out of them and they get the best out of you. One way of doing that is if you're going to spar MMA, right? Do body spars, right? And then simulate just hitting in the face and then go full throttle with the wrestling. I think that is the closest way that you can um, formulate a fight simulation without actually going to war and busting your head. Because remember, the CTE and the shots that you take in your brain, it's very similar. I'm going to say that it's very similar to that of Mario, right? When he has coins being taken out of him, right? And then he becomes small once he gets hit, right? It's kind of one of them things, right? You don't want too many of your coins to get depleted out of your brain, because if it does, then, obviously you see some of the worst case practices of BJ Penn as an example, Chuck Liddell with the way that he slurs, even Anthony Smith. Take a look at Anthony Smith and the way that he got into that domestic situation going on, right? These are real life situations that people go through with CTE. So, be very careful with this. And I was lucky enough to have developed a style that wasn't necessarily conducive to being a punching bag, right? Oftentimes, a lot of people would say, well, you're a runner, all that running, all that dancing that you do. No, it's called defensive fighting. That's the name of the game. The name of the game is hit and don't get hit. Okay, so I think they have an expert witness up in the stance right now. Let's hear what they're saying right now. Oh, okay. So he's saying that he took something that he had no permission to take. What was that?
I'm there to do it. I made the recording because he showed up to the first interview not ready for his interview to be conducted. So I knew it was going to be broken up into 2 days. So I said, I'm going to make a recording of this so that I can make sure we answer the questions.
So he's talking about a recording of a video.
That's the only reason I made this recording. I apologize. We're way afield of the court that needs to rule upon it. This sounds like cross-examination for a jury. I'll get back into it.
So the plaintiff is calling for perjury. That's very interesting.
Publishing, no. Playing for the jury, yes. Publishing and suggests public.
By the way, Marty, if you're there, let me know why you feel watching court stuff is depressing. Like, what about it depresses you? Like, have you had experience or had seen a homie go through something like that? Like, what about it depresses you?
Broken when you speak in front of a third party who's unrelated to the legal team. Here it appears as though Mario Dorsey and no others were potentially present for the conversations. Additionally, the setting of the interview itself does not lend itself to believe that the conversations would be privileged and or private. There's a recording studio. The purpose is there to be recorded. A release is signed so the person can be recorded. The entire room is microphoned up. Additionally, there are microphones on the people participating in the interview. In general, this isn't a situation that would lend itself to private conversations. I think based on the testimony, they are not privileged conversations. Circling back to the issue regarding the limiting the instruction to the jury, Mr. Stamp, is there anything? Did you want me to reread the Tavares instruction, which I can add something related to the unrelated shooting to? That proposal for that would be this. You have heard testimony regarding drug trafficking, conspiracy, a federal conviction, gang affiliation, and an unrelated shooting.
That's not an unrelated shooting. In 2015.
So they are challenging basically what the plaintiff is trying to do is trying to establish capability. You look at Keefe D shaking his head.
Teenage shooting that's written about in his book. So Mr. Stamps was conflating the two.
Okay.
The 2015.
So how about this, instead of federal conviction, prior criminal conviction?
I know I'm overpaying for car insurance. I just don't want to
God dang commercials.
jump through a bunch of hoops to deal with it.
Saying that it was unrelated is saying that it's unrelated to this incident.
Unrelated 2015 incident.
So what's your proposal, Mr. Camp? I saw you had a paper.
Yes, Your Honor, myself and the defense team work on a Tavares instruction that says you are instructed that any testimony and or evidence introduced about any unrelated shootings and or murders is not admitted and should not be considered for propensity purposes, but instead for the purposes of motive, intent, or to establish the credibility of defendant's case.
All right. So what they're trying to do is establish credibility on Keefe D's capability. But they're trying to figure out whether this should be admissible in court.
Okay, let them add that and then bring it up to me and I'll use that as my master. I will ultimately end up giving this instruction to the jury in that packet. That's your suggestion, That is granted, Mr. Grant. As soon as, Ms. Pender is finished, she is looking at it. Almost there, Mr. Grant. Give us a minute. Okay.
Okay, so a whole lot of waiting around going on. PPD's looking kind of frustrated right now, almost kind of confused. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, what's going on here? Oh no, what the fuck going on here? That's what he looking like right now. That's what KPD's looking like right now. Look at KPD. All right. So while all this is going on, we'll just go back to, the MMA conversations while, all the basically boring stuff is going on, right? So let's see what else is going on in the world of MMA right now. Obviously, the Fluffy Hernandez fight. Yeah. So what we were saying about that, let's take a look at the middleweight division right now. Middleweight rankings of 185 in the UFC. So Israel Adesanya is at number 9. Michael Venom Page is at number 8. I like that, actually. I like that fight as well for Anthony Hernandez, Michael Venom Page. Now, that's obviously dependent upon whether Michael Venom Page is going to stay in the UFC, right? Because we don't really know much about the extent of his, contract negotiations or what, or what's the, kind of the reality behind it. Speaking of which, yeah, the judge right now is still, just looking at I don't know what she's looking at or, approving something or
Okay, so this is what I'm going to read. Tell me if there's an objection. You are instructed that any testimony and or evidence introduced about any unrelated shootings and or murders is not admitted and should not be considered by you for propensity or any other purpose. It is admitted only for the purposes of motive, intent, or to establish the credibility of defendant's statements. Any objection? Perfect. I can read it. So as soon as we bring the jury in, I'll apologize for being a little bit late. My fault. And then I will read them the limiting instruction and we'll get going.
okay, so the jury hasn't
Yeah, I think so.
the jury hasn't been in yet. So I guess what they are trying to do is establish a motive, right? That is what the defendants are. I'm sorry, the plaintiffs are trying to do is establish motive, capabilities, right? That's why they're always going back to all these shootings that Keefe D did when he was a teenager. A lot of the things that they go back to were some things regarding um, the stuff that was in his book. By the way, there's an audio version of his book, and it's you can actually get it on YouTube, or at least somebody has it uploaded on YouTube. So they're just awaiting on the judge, on the jurors right now to walk in.
Wait, why couldn't they say? Why couldn't they do that? Because they gave him immunity with Bill. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't do it, and the murder didn't happen in the state of California. So now they're only able to take the stand and play the tape because he broke the conditions of the property. You get what I'm saying, bro? The niggas, listen. These niggas in fight on this gang shit. Listen what I'm trying to tell you. From a month, who's in them gang file books from '89. Gang members and gang bangers are some of the dumbest monkeys in the world. I used to be one of the dumbest. This nigga's a dumbass gang member. There you have it. This nigga took some shit done in the dark and turned on the light and said, "Stay free. Hermit, oh y'all, my lord, look at me. I'm the one throwing piss at y'all." Nobody know where it's coming from. It's dark. He turned on his own light and started screaming y'all name. You ain't gonna go over there. Stay, what you gonna go over there and do to this nigga? Now you know where it's coming from. See what I'm saying? That's what the police did. And look, the nigga had moved to the state of Nevada, was living there. You in the state that got jurisdiction and you traveling to California, going on the internet saying, this is what I did in Nevada. You stupid mother. That's what it is.
You got to stand on everything he said in that proffer, right?
Oh, bro, that proffer. Hey, listen to me. When y'all hear this proffer, this nigga was telling on all kind of niggas. Now this right here, he gonna have to. I don't know where they gonna put this nigga. He gonna have to be in solitary confinement, or he gonna have to move to Alaska. Cause you about to hear this nigga telling on all kind of niggas. That was my next. Remember in the proffer, he had to give up information to get your immunity. You know what I'm saying? Outside of this Tupac shit. So we about to hear this nigga telling on all kind of niggas. All kind of niggas that was wondering how did the police figure it out. They about to know now.
Wait, so that could so that kind of go. It ain't necessarily the people we were saying earlier, or I think Smurf was saying. But so if he got to do that, any of them alive, and can any of them get caught up in anything he said in that property?
Bro, they already been booked. The nigga property. They already went and got these niggas if they was gonna go get them. See, you know niggas, y'all probably got family members at home. Man, I don't know how these mothers up on me. Cause a nigga like him told me. You just don't know. If I know state is doing some shit, you sending some shit to Florida, and I get caught up like Keefe D, yeah, this nigga state, he shipping shit to Florida. Oh yeah, who's this nigga? What's his phone number? Boom, boom, boom. They tap your shit, they hear it, they go to the judge, they get the warrants to surveillance you, they watching you, they see it, and then one day they bump you up, they pull you over because they know you got money in the gun, right? They pull you over, and they pull you over straight, and they pull you in. Nothing. I'm just gonna have to guess and hopefully we're close.
Sazo asks, what are you doing? I'm covering the Tupac murder trial. Yeah, so we're doing a little bit of that, covering the trial, doing some UFC talks, so just doing something a little different, right? Although sometimes, man, I don't think the algorithm necessarily rewards trying creativity, right? It's almost like, the algorithm kind of knows what it wants. It just wants like one particular subject at a time, or a niche subject at that. But all right, let's hear this. You're listening to Keefe D right now.
I'm going to stop this. Before his interview in 2017, had you ever heard of Special Agent Holland?
I don't think so. I don't remember hearing much about the federal investigations into him. That was new information to me.
You should take a look at Keefe D's face right now as he's reacting to his own snitch statements that he's making right here. Look at this. This is all the transcripts, and then that's his face right there.
Okay. Did he ever talk about sugar? Did he ever talk about being scared and like all the bullshit, go back and forth the East Coast, West Coast shit? He talked about it later on in our relationship. That's right. That's what I mean. Like, when do we get to that spot, that place where you guys were talking about that? Me and my boys too, just rolling up, just going to the club when I rolling up greenies in the neighborhood. Phone. Like, I guess they must have fucking played it. Something I don't know. He's like, man, let me speak to Keefe. And boom, shut up. And man, I'm giving a concert out there. We're on the tour on the West Coast. That's where he was take students out there. I said, why it wouldn't be cool? He's like, the big CEO guy. The CEO guy. Yeah, the big guy. I knew what he was talking about. told her shit. Scared of that. So we went to the Irvine Hills in the summertime. Oh, this is certified. Yeah, I saw out of the room. You know what I'm saying? Shit, that song's one more chance. Came in on the stage. Shit was right there. I came off the stage again. You know that? Same way I know you. Shit, after that, we went to the San Diego concert. Matter of fact, the Dallas Cowboys stayed in the same hotel we stayed in. He's down. That was cool, to be honest. Hey, and the balls would go all around it for the Dallas Cowboys. It's ready for Troy Aikman. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if we can get you in trouble or not, boy. The balls were all around the computer. Then we went to the Anaheim. That was on the Halloween night. Perfect. Halloween. We're cool there too.
And he just give you passes for everyone. Like everyone would go concerts.
All right. So basically what he's playing right here is just, the same old story, that I think they played an audio like this, or maybe Keefe D is just saying the same thing again about how the Dallas Cowboys was his team. How he said that Troy Aikman was there, Emmett Smith was there. One of the cops even tried to flatter him by saying, "Oh, maybe you could have passed as Emmett Smith's cousin or something," and then TPD kind of like laughed and chuckled, ha ha, right? So, all just pretty much the same things, that's going on. And then Keefe D, the way that he's looking right now, right? He has this face of defiance, right? Like, oh, like as if he wants people to believe, like, oh, I didn't say that, you know what I mean? Like, but it's all recorded and in your face, right? Like 30 years later, you get exposed as an informant, as a snitch, all because you could not handle uh your situation of getting caught up, I suppose. But yeah. All right. Okay. All right. So yeah, continue more on this. Again, the face of defiance, like, oh, I didn't say all these things. I didn't say all these things. I didn't say all of that. What you talking about? I didn't say all that. But you did. So that was one of the police officers at the time, I suppose. Now back to Keefe D's face of shame. Look at this snitch right here.
So say it in your own words then, not his words. What did he ask you to do? So say it in your own words then, not his words. What did he want? He wanted me to get rid of them dudes, his problems. I want to get rid of his problems. And who were his problems? CEO, the big guy. Yeah. And when did, because you said hit him up was a big deal for him, right? Like,
Yeah, so they're talking about how Puff was really disrespected by the Hit 'Em Up song. And I'm like, damn! now he's feeling all ashamed that he's like cheering himself. Yeah, the House of Blues, man. That's where Tupac performed the most. I don't know if that siren sound is coming from the old tape or is that coming from the current tape. John Dong says, "Sup? What's up, John Dong? How you doing, my man?" All right, so they're just basically talking about almost the same things, from the last trial. I don't know why they're reiterating it, or maybe they're playing a different audio, or if they're not playing a different audio, maybe they're playing um a new audio of Keefe D, but basically saying the same thing. He says, "I'm good. How about you? Hey, what were some fights you enjoyed this weekend?" Obviously, I was a little bummed about the Fluffy loss. Right, I was really rooting for Fluffy on that one. And of course, Drizzy Goat comes into the chat and absolutely lays it on me. All right, he absolutely lays it on me and reminds me. Nonetheless, fun banter. Regardless, I take no, yeah, I take no offense to it. But Anthony Hernandez did get a lot of support after the fact. Many people were giving him, a lot of props. He says, "I like the main event a lot, even though I was picking Fluffy." Yes, yes, Fluffy made a good account of himself. Look, there's no losing in this, right? And even after the fact, you're going to get more different types of fights out of Fluffy, right? As I was just looking at the middleweight division, right? There's Michael Venom Page. We talked about Israel Adesanya versus Anthony Hernandez. That's a 50-50 fight, right? Israel Adesanya is on the decline. He changed teams. So did Fluffy Hernandez. He changed teams. With Sean Strickland this time. Although, even with the loss, there was some, shown of improvement to Anthony Hernandez, right? He credits his time at Extreme Couture as the same as when he was fighting, right here, when me and him were fighting, out in the regional scenes, right? When he, very early on in his career, he was getting a lot of fights on a frequent basis, right? So he felt like going to Extreme Couture was going to give him that feel of, hey, you know what? We're here to scrap. We're going to scrap, every other day. He said he was in there getting scraps every other day because you know how Extreme Couture is, especially Sean Strickland and how they get down. It's like that. They get in there and they scrap and they do their thing. So very hard to generate striking power, even grapple when your legs are chopped. Correct. Victory says, "We back to MMA." Yes, yes, of course. Because right now, let me tell you why, right? This is what's going on in the trial right now. They're playing this audio again. I don't know if this is an audio or a different audio, but Keefe D saying the same thing. But it's basically showing that Keefe D is snitching. And the way that he's looking right now, he's like looking in defiance, like, "Huh? Oh, what are you talking about? That's not me. That's not me." Like, no, it's you, bro. It's you. You just didn't think that, 30 years later, you would get exposed as a snitch. And there it is, right? I mean, the two worst things you can be a snitch and then the one that unalives Tupac. You know what I mean? Think about the impact. Let's talk MMA for a second in regards to Tupac, right? I told you guys every fight, 5 fighters walk out to a Tupac song, whether it's Ambitions as a Rider, You Can't See Me. Cody Durden walked out to Hail Mary. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, shit, Cody Durden walking out to Hail Mary. But yeah, John Dong says Fluffy versus Robocop is actually one of my more favorite fights this year. Wow. Hot take. I liked it more than Patty versus Gaethje. That is a very hot take, actually. Yes, that is a very hot take, but a reasonable hot take, to be quite honest with you, a very reasonable one. And reason being is because, look, understand this, right? Patty Pimlet will always be in fights like that. Uh, Anthony Hernandez is the same. He's kind of like that, right? He has these fights that are like a must see. You never know what's going to happen behind them. Um, yeah. Um, John Dong says, I didn't really like the Patty versus Gaethje. It was Patty eating punches, and there wasn't much else to the fight. I really don't like the fights where it's just someone unintelligently eating punches. So there you go, right? Uh, this is why I tell fighters, or at least you should tell fighters or anybody that you know in your circumference that is a fighter, fight defensively. Okay, don't fight out of your element. A lot of people always will tell you to fight out of your element because why? They want to see exciting fights. Mostly, they want to see you struggle. Why struggle when you can fight distance and range, and just win and score and jab, bow, 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 this all night long, bow, bow, right? And then take them down, hold them down, for however long. Why not do that? And I don't know. Sometimes there are fighters that sort of give themselves to the crowd, right? And that is the unfortunate thing about it is when they give themselves to the crowd. You should never give yourselves to the crowd. Look, the main objective is to go home in one piece. Okay, that is the main objective. You got to go home in one piece. If you're not, if you're not going home in one piece, you're depleting your career. Again, what I told you guys earlier, right, in regards to this trial with Keefe D. If you are a guy that's about that life, if you are a guy that was a former military, or if you're a fighter, you got to get a podcast because you have to be able to tell your story and monetize off of your story. Otherwise, this game would have done nothing but depleted you. The fight game is a game of depletion. The world of military and deployment is a game of depletion. All these things, right? Fighting is a game of depletion. So while it's depleting you, go out and gain something from it. And yeah, you're right, John Dong. You can't just have someone unintelligently be eating punches and think that that is, the way to go. But also, in regards to the other boxing match that we saw last night with Raleigh versus Teofimo Lopez, you seen Theo, he was very active, right? Put the punches in place, constant volume. Whereas with Raleigh, he was very hesitant, didn't really commit to anything, right? There was a lot of a lack of commitment on his part. He says, yeah, I thought Theo won for sure. I agree. I agree with you on that. Yes, yes. Theo absolutely won for sure. He absolutely won, hands down, right? Even though, you know what, there were good moments for Raleigh. There were good moments where he gave a good account of himself, but ultimately, I think, yeah, he says Romero had his moments, but he was backing up for most of the time. Correct, correct. And I don't know, man, depending on who the fighter is, sometimes they reward that, right? Like I remember watching the Oscar De La Hoya Tito Trinidad fight, right? In that fight, uh, Oscar was backing up the whole time, but no, I'm sorry, Tito was backing up the whole time, but they gave the fight to Trinidad. And I remember how controversial that was. But yeah, I remember it was controversial because I was watching it at a Puerto Rican homie's house in the East Coast. This was back when I was like 14 years old, So, and obviously, when you're watching fights in the East Coast, main event time is like, close to midnight. So, yeah. What else is going on with this Keefe D trial right now? What else? So yeah, Armin Sarukian and Rufi. I'm pretty excited for that one, guys. Here's a hot take: do not be surprised if Rufi wins that fight. I just thought about this, right? And I'm like, the central nervous system of Armin Sarukian has not been honed in, right? He hasn't really um He hasn't really zeroed his sights in for MMA, right? And there's going to be some adjustments to that. And Rufy is the wrong style. Look, he is just going to overload you, right? I know what that's like when you are, constantly overloading your opponent from you. It's hard to deal with. Okay, I've done that to guys. I've had guys done that to me in the training practice room. That is a very difficult style to deal with. And see, Victory says I agree, especially since Rupee has been training with Volk. So now we're talking about takedown defenses. By the way, the coach of Volk went on to Submission Radio and started to talk about how he said, "Oh, his wrestling, Volk's wrestling is far more superior than Evloev." Okay, yeah, says the guy who is coaching, Volkanovski. How convenient, right? How convenient. The guy who's coaching Volkanovski is going to say that. Of course, the guy who is coaching Volkanovski is going to say that, but I think Evloev, his takedowns are far superior, and we'll see, we'll see. But Volk, though, it is good. It is good to train with Volk in that regard. It's still good to train with Volk in the wrestling department because he will help in some kind of way, right? The takedown defense of Rufy is going to be the difference there. If he can get that going, guess what? He's going to get all of that Capoeira movement going, and he's going to hit Armin Sarukian in places that Armin Sarukian didn't think he could be hit with. And he doesn't train with anyone like that, right? Even though Kamzat is a great training partner to have, nobody can emulate what Rufy does, and Rufy is a style all on its own that you have to try and figure out. So that's going to be very difficult, very, very difficult. All right. Let's get back to let's see if there's anything exciting going on with the Keefe D thing right now, and then we'll get back to MMA and boxing, of course. Okay, so now he's mentioning Reggie Wright here. Obviously, Reggie Wright came a couple of days ago. By the way, in his wheelchair bound, right, in one of those, little motor scooter Florida style retirement home wheelchairs that he went in. But yeah, all right, now let's take a look at KPD's face more in defiance. Oh, I can't believe it. I didn't snitch. Oh no, even though the transcript is right there. I didn't snitch. You did. You did, Keefe. Okay, so now he's snitching on crooked cops. Keefe D is now snitching on crooked cops right now. All right. So, oh wow, he's snitching on Reggie Wright, and his dad. So Reggie Wright Sr. and Reggie Wright Jr. And now he's even snitching on the mayor of Compton at the time. Omar Bradley was his name. He was a mayor. Wow. So that's right up that alley right there. Victory. Marty, right? The mayor of Kingstown stuff. This Omar Bradley guy, whoever he was back in those Compton days, was that guy. He was that guy in Kingston. Man, he knew a lot, bro. So he's snitching on the mayor. He's snitching on crooked cops. He's obviously snitching on his own nephew, who allegedly was the one that gunned down Tupac. Man, homie, snitching on everybody.
Thank you, guys. We're back in 45. Are you leaving?
Okay, so the audio that's playing right now was, I think, back in the mid 2000s when Keefe D started snitching. Look at him. He's like, "Oh, I gotta take my nap." OG gotta take his nap.
Oh, yeah, okay. Where are we eating? Oh, it's in there. You talking about
All right, so they're talking about Craig Caden's book. All right, so all right, not much going on, obviously. We'll get back to it when more stuff is going on. We'll get back to the MMA talk, right? So yeah, man. Yeah, that's the hot take that you can take away from these MMA conversations that we have right now. I think there is a chance that Rufi can take out Armin Sarukian. And you know what? Here's the thing, right? I think Armin Sarukian, if he plays his cards, I think that he's going to play it smart by shooting in, shooting in, lay and pray, and get the ground control time. That's the best. That's the best case scenario for him to win this fight. All right, that is the best case scenario. That's what he has to do. Think about it. What else can he really do? Right? Is he going to go strike with Rufi? Also, listen. I think the takedown defense and training with Volk, I really think that is helpful in the wrestling department, which, by the way, will allow Rufi's striking to shine. He says, right, Armin's striking isn't that great. Correct. Correct. Either that or Armin really has to get cracking with his striking. And honestly, doing all these RAF events, which, by the way, is great. It enhances his grappling even more, which is why you have to really shoot in on Rufi. You got to do it, bro. That's what you got to do. Okay, otherwise, all this hype is going to dissipate from you. On top of that, people are going to blame you for doing all this drama, streams. Yeah, man, it's not going to look good. And then on top of that, I think he has some sort of like, home front issues going on, if you know what I mean. But Scandinavigo says the fights at the RAF, Brand Risk, PFL, UFC, and boxing was great weekend. Should be this packed action every second. Best ever, correct. I love seeing Bo lose. Oh, man. Everybody piling on with Bo. So as I was saying with that earlier, right? And we'll get to the brand risk stuff. Obviously, Larry Wheels popped his biceps, right? I guess that's what happens when you're a bodybuilder. You pump out too many bicep curls and whatnot. But yeah. Okay, so you love seeing Bo lose. Okay, so here's the positive thing about this too as well, right? Not necessarily for Bo, but I don't know how much indicative that would mean for his MMA career losing in RAF. Not that it really means much, right? But great for McNeely, right? We don't know who McNeely is, honestly, right? You'd have to be like a real niche, wrestling enthusiast to know who that guy is, right? You have to be. Right. Well, I don't know who he is. And I'll be honest with you. I follow some wrestling. I mean, at least I follow it to the Olympic level. I follow some NCAA Final Four stuff. Every year. Of course, right. But McNeely, I never heard of him. Have you? Well, now we have. Okay, he's obviously not an MMA fighter. Okay, and he doesn't have the follow because let's be honest about this, right? Wrestling is a great sport, but there is no better clout than MMA. All right? There's no better clout than MMA. That's just what it is. Okay, MMA is where it's at right now. All right? If you do MMA, you have the biggest clout, even if you have the smallest paycheck in the room. All right, Chris Weidman one time mentioned that he was in a room full of executives or whatever, and he was at the time like a 10-10 fighter, and he felt like a real small guy around these Wall Street guys or whatever, right? But that's the reality of it, right? Toughest guy in the room, but not necessarily the most lucrative guy. And I think for a long time that was a reality for wrestling. Well, now this RAF guy, McNeely, is probably making six figures doing something that he's been doing since he was in high school. Because I tell you what, for those that have wrestled in high school, I don't think there was an avenue other than MMA, which, by the way, then you got to learn how to get your head punched in. Then you're in like a completely different scenario. Skate Vigo says the Bo lose. Victory says, did you see that boxer Barbosa say he's going to train UFC? So there you go, right? That's what I mean. People don't even know it as MMA. They know it as UFC. Imagine that. Like they know it as UFC and not MMA, but that shows you how powerful the letters UFC are. Okay, it's a powerful um, group of letters, and it's a group of letters that summons people to curiosity, um, familiarity, right? Long term familiarity. Because remember, what the UFC sold very early on was violence, right? Well, now we know what violence looks like. We know what violence looks like when a man puts his knee on another man's stomach or head, elbows, all of that. Now we know what it looks like when we see Ronda Rousey get laid out looking like a 187 scene, right? Looking like Tupac in the BMW, right? Slanted over and all of that, right? We know what that looks like. So now it's not about the violence anymore. Now it's about the characters, the people behind that are committing these sport violence, legalized violence, right? Who are these people behind all of that? It became that. Once it became that, then it became something else. It became about notoriety. It became about excitement. It became, it, it evolves into what people look for. But ultimately, from the very beginning, it was UFC. And that is why guys like that will say, well, I train UFC, right? Or people that don't know anything about MMA, because at this point, there is no MMA without the UFC. Think about that. There is no MMA without the UFC. All right. And there would be no murder case had Keefe D not ran his mouth. And now Keefe D ran his mouth, snitched, because he got caught up in drug charges, and now he's pretending like, I don't know what happened. I didn't say all that. Yeah, and then years later, here's your recording.
What do you mean by like my son? His son is his son is fucking children. Yeah, his children, man. You know what I'm saying? All them niggas from the same neighborhood and everything. David, Matt, all them dudes, man. So we really had it rough. So we
Scandibigo says from the beginning, it was Bruce Lee, OG MMA. Victory says, do you think Tupac really? Of course he did, man. Of course he did. You want to know something about that, Marty, right? The reason why a lot of people have different conspiracies about Tupac is because I want you to think about how prolific Tupac is, right? I keep saying every week, whenever there's a UFC fight, oh, there's a Tupac song playing, right? Cody Durden walking out to Tupac, such and such walking out to Tupac. Even George St. Pierre walked out to Tupac when he fought Frank Trigg, walked out to Ambitions of a Rider, right? Every event, people walk out to a Tupac song, right? So this is a very prolific man, very influential man. And I'm sure even in your gyms, how many times have you heard a Tupac song play in your gym while you guys are training, right? He's very influential. Okay, think about that. Very influential. If it's not Tupac in the West Coast, it's also Nipsey Hussle representing the West Coast, or Snoop, right? One or the other, or maybe on occasion Dre. But most of the time, it's a Tupac song, maybe with a Dre production to it, but a Tupac song nonetheless. Very influential man. So you're probably wondering, okay, how is it that a man with such prolific profile, a very exciting life story, right? Grew up as a Black Panther, grew up in the East Coast and, lived in the West Coast. His parents were Black Panthers, became a Blood, was, affiliated with the Digital Underground, and then evolved into gangster rap, right? All of these things. Now, all of a sudden, he gets into the world of gangs, okay, beats up a gang member, and lo and behold, the gang member actually goes and guns him down because he beat him up. That's not really that far fetched to believe. I think people are very untrusting of official narratives, right? Especially narratives that the government has created or set forth or came to a conclusion towards, right? Um, Reason being is because after the 9/11 world, we all became extremely suspicious of our governments. We became extremely suspicious of every narrative out there. And so we just think to ourselves, you know what? This can't be right. This can't be true. When in reality, the reality is just as simple as the man died gangbanging. So yeah, I honestly think that he really did get unaligned. And the same thing with Bruce Lee. People make up stuff about Bruce Lee all the time. Oh, this is the reason why, or you know what I mean? But yeah, conspiracies are fun, but once you really investigate and put forth an effort into learning about the incident and learning about what's going on, you start to understand how ridiculous some people's conclusions are, and only based on a conclusion that they wish to fulfill in their fantasized world.
Like that. Where's my hand? I think Chara. All right. Yeah. Let me just see what I can talk to you about that. A lot of the stuff I have here is about that night. Okay. Yeah. We're gonna have all that shoot down. Where? See about that. Can you talk about Zip? Talk to Puff afterwards? Yeah. I mean, you just talk to them. Same shit. Yeah.
Okay, so now they're asking about Zip, right? For those of you that don't know, Zip is a guy that is affiliated with P. Diddy, right? And they have said that this is the guy who is the middleman between the people that were supposed to give $1 million to the alleged killers of Tupac. So that's what they're talking about right now, Zip. So this is the transcript that they're talking about with Zip, where they met. They met in Melrose. They met in Beverly Hills to plot out this whole entire thing. And the interviewer,
Yeah, so that we don't waste our time. Can we just tell me what you talk to me?
they took down Saddam Hussein. They trying to take down Donald Trump. So you know what I'm saying? I'm a little wow. Hey, he's talking about they're trying to take down Donald Trump. Wow, this is like back when 2008. He was talking about this. Wow, he even mentioned Donald Trump back in the days. That's crazy. Wow, man, that's crazy. Uh he brought him up from back in the days. All right, so we'll get back to that when anything else interesting happens. We'll get back to the MMA conversations. Of course, what made this channel first is MMA, right? Amongst all the other gang stuff, all the other geopolitical stuff, it is an MMA channel, but nonetheless, yes. So, where does RoboCop go from here, right? So the middleweight division right now, you got this is as of right now, right? Obviously, today is Monday, tomorrow Tuesday, matchmaking Tuesday, right? They may have a different outlook to it. So right now it's Sean Strickland at the top, Khamzat Chimaev, right? Is there a chance that Khamzat Chimaev and Strickland are going to fight again? I'm going to take a hot take on it and say yes. That is the next matchup because that is what is commercially viable. Scandabigo says Umar fight is canceled. He tested positive. You're joking, right? Yo, I'm banning you if you're joking. Let me see here. He has not tested positive. You are likely thinking of his cousin Usman. Okay, who received a suspension. Okay. Yeah, Omar Bantamweight, who has not failed he's never failed a drug test, bro. Yeah, that's a lie. Why did you lie about that, bro? Why did you lie, Scandabigo? See, now I can't trust anything that you say anymore. All right? Now you just lost credibility with me. Okay? Look, you can't say that in the middle of a stream. Oh, Omar fight is canceled. He tested positive. You can't say that. He says, my mistake. No, but okay. Fine, fine. Fair enough. I forgive you for that, for saying my mistake. But what what prompt that, right? Because you must have seen something that is of like some kind of viable information to that degree. Victory says maybe he really thought he did. Ah, okay. Maybe so, right? There is this thing with the Dagestanis, right? Sort of accusing them of being drug cheats. Yair pulled out. Okay. So what's the haps on that? What's going on with Yair? Why did Yair Rodriguez pull out? Let's see here. Dougie Shermville with the death emoji. Victory says, well, they have had a lot of guys fail the drug test. Withdrew from his scheduled no chase main event against John Silva due to an injury. Okay. So the replacement fighter is rising contender Jose Delgado, stepped in on a short notice. Yeah, whoever this Jose Delgado is, anybody going up against John Silva, I'm with it. So when it comes to September 12th, I'm going to be the biggest Jose Delgado fan there is. And I don't even know who Jose Delgado is. I'm going to learn who he is right now so I can be his biggest fan ever, because I really want him to kick John Silva's ass. Okay, like really. All right. So coming off of Duplessis and Usman back in July 18, he beat Austin Bashi. Okay, he's got to win over Andre Feely. Okay, he's got to win over a Team Alpha Male guy. All right. Scandabigo says, I thought Usman re-signed for PFL, but it was a troll post. They got me. Dude, I know, and I understand why you would say that he would sign with the PFL instead, right? I can understand. Here's the thing, right? The PFL obviously is going to offer more money, but I told you, man. Look, tell me on the chat right now, everybody on the chat right now that's coherent and paying attention to this. Would Usman Nurmagomedov be about money or legacy, knowing what you know about the Dagestanis, or at least in particular Team Eagle? Because obviously there's a lot more Dagestani fighters outside of Team Eagle, but within Team Eagle, just Team Eagle in general, what is their main objective? Money or um legacy? Scanabigo, you don't count, okay? Because you're the one that suggested that Usman was going to re-sign with the PFL, and there's no confirmation of that yet. Victory says, I'd be shocked if he didn't go to the UFC. Why? Okay, elaborate on that, Victory. Why? Why would you be shocked if he didn't go to the UFC? Okay, because you're onto something here, and you might just be explaining legacy for sure. Yes, explaining the mindset of the Dagestanis. Look, guys, here's the thing, right? These guys are rich enough, okay? I'll give you an example, right? I had an Arab homie, okay, who has a very wealthy father, right? I remember he said to me, because one of the homies made fun of him for saying, well, that's your dad's credit card, right? He said, my father's money is my money. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you're not saying that this is an Arab thing or a Dagestani thing. Maybe it's a Muslim thing, right? Because there are elements of our religion that are somewhat, socialist, like especially within your own immediate family. So what I'm saying is that if Omar Nurmagomedov wants a Mercedes Benz. All he has to do is call Khabib for his black card, right? For those of you that know anything about finances, if you have a black card, okay, you're a valued member of that bank. He says, I have Arab homies as well. So this is how they operate, okay? Um, at this point, they are already rich, all of them, because Khabib either paid them, or paid off their houses or paid off their cars. They are already living the life. Okay. And by the way, if you're an Orthodox Muslim guy, you don't really need a lot. You're not a very materialistic guy. Um, yeah, dude, I'm telling you, true Muslim guys are some of the most boring rich people that you will. And when I mean boring, I mean like they're not going to go out of their way to like buy all these weird things that weird rich people buy. I mean they'll buy things within the circumference of their means, right? So they live a very simple life. It doesn't take much to impress or to wow the Dagestanis, right? I'm telling you, like these guys are very religious people, very. And and if they're gonna fight in MMA, they're gonna go for legacy. So Victory says that they know the UFC is the most prestigious promotion. There it is, the most prestigious promotion. That's what they're gunning for. Victory says that's how the Dagestani guys are too. They're not materialistic. Correct. Now, Arabs, though, are a little bit different. Here's what I said back in 2018, right? I said during the Khabib and Conor fight, I said more Arabs are a lot like Conor McGregor than they are Khabib. And for those of you that understand the Arab world and understand MMA at the same time, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say more Arab guys are like Conor than they are Khabib. Of course, there are, strict Salafi, Orthodox Muslim religious guys in the Gulf regions that are like Khabib, but most of those guys that you see that are like that are probably Islamic scholars or people that lead prayers, which, by the way, you get paid for in Saudi Arabia. Here, if you're an imam in the United States, maybe you get a tax write-off for your mosque, but you don't get paid the way that you would if you were an imam in those Middle Eastern countries. And by the way, the Dagestanis, they also have a lot of Islamic scholars in their ranks, right? So these people are not just big time engineers, doctors, MMA fighters. There's also a lot of Dagestani Muslim scholars, that have studied in Medina, that have studied in Al Azhar. So yeah. Um, Victory says, plus, isn't our money worth way more than in their country? Yes, Victory, yes. Sean Strickland has complained about this, right? He said this is the reason why we're not getting a lot of American fighters because, what is the incentive for American fighters to get in there, right? What are you going to do as an American fighter? Right? You got all of these expenses going on, right? And you want to fight in the UFC and get paid this much, but let's say if you're an athletic, white American or American black kid, right? And what are you going to do? You're going to go and fight when you have an opportunity to be Gronkowski, when you got an opportunity to be Tom Brady, when you got an opportunity to be the next Emmitt Smith, or do you want to get your head punched in? For the other guys around the world, it's not a choice, right? They're like, hey, fighting is the way to go. I'm sure Khabib, if he wanted, he would have gone into soccer. I think soccer is his one true love, and I can see it too, the way that he plays soccer with other guys. Like, bro, listen, if I go and play soccer with a bunch of guys or, play basketball, I'm not really going to be all competitive about it, right? Like, I'm there to just run, I'm there to shoot, I'm there to get some cardio in because, to me, in my mind, I'm a martial artist that's just, exercising, doing another sport just to get some sweat out, right? But Khabib is really competitive with it, like really competitive, like he's Ronaldo out there or Messi or something like that, or Yamal, the World Cup winner, the Arab Spanish kid. He's like that, extremely competitive. So, but he grew up in a country where MMA is highly encouraged, whether it was lucrative or not. And at times it is lucrative because they actually do pay you for being an amateur star in sambo, and and Russia does reward you for being a prominent athlete in their part of the world. Scanabigo says, I still think it's way more valuable for Usman to stay in the PFL. Okay. I know you're very staunch in pushing that, but all right, let's see why. Be the only star and explode when the partner with Netflix in January. Usman will disappear in the UFC. He's not a star, man. You know what, man? Listen, you make very good, compelling points, right? A friend of mine, made fun of me on this topic. He called me a UFC colonialist. Okay, so basically, I'm a colonizer for the UFC, right? In terms of what I push as an MMA brand. Um, in a way, maybe he's right, bro, because I think that the UFC is the most supreme league there is, right? There is no defeating the UFC at anything. Okay, like you're not going to defeat the UFC when it comes to long-term numbers. You're not going to defeat them in terms of psychological brainwashing that they have people on, right? Look at what Victory said earlier about that Barbosa boxer, right? He said that he's going to go train UFC. If that doesn't indicate to you, okay, to a mind of somebody that knows nothing about MMA saying that, right, tells you everything about the brand power of those three letters. So, but you are right, though. You still are making a very valuable argument there. Netflix is very powerful, but here's the thing, right? Is Netflix an MMA um, channel? You could also argue, is Paramount an MMA channel? Well, here's the thing, right? Here's something I noticed about Paramount. Aside from the UFC, you look at all their shows. What's the common theme? I'm going to be honest with you. Paramount is like white people, black entertainment television. I swear to you, it is white people, black entertainment television. Why? Take a look at all the shows. It's about country people, okay, people that live in the backwoods, even marshals, U.S. Marshals. They could have done a U.S. Marshals where they travel in like, glamorized coastal cities of the United States. Instead, they're out in the middle of Montana, right? Agency, Lioness, all these patriotic shows. It's a white American channel. Okay, and you know what? Guess who the majority of MMA fans are? Okay, the majority of MMA fans believe, at least in the United States, are white Americans. Now, in a wider world of things, maybe that's different. So the UFC has that kind of fan base. So they strategically put themselves in Paramount, knowing that, hey, you know what? Paramount is not a sports channel, although they kind of are. They do have Premier League soccer here and there. But the reality is they are not an MMA channel. But the UFC made it an MMA channel because there's a crossover between fans. Now, here's the thing, right? The majority of people that watch Netflix, do they really watch it for MMA? Or did he watch it to go home and chill? Or did he watch it to go watch nostalgic movies or other TV shows that are already out there? Scandavigo says Netflix, 359 million subscribers. Paramount, 30 million subscribers. UFC brand power comes from people watching internet clips, not fights or cards. Huh, okay. Aaron Mega says, do you agree Omar will tap Song? Yes, I think so. I think he will. I think he will. I think he's going to submit him. That's what I think. Man, a fight card in China, that's going to be exciting. I might have to do a prediction show for that all on its own. But yes, I'm very much excited for that one. That's going to be a fun one to look forward to for sure. Um Okay, so let's see. What else is Keefe D talking about right here? Man, these are long transcripts that they're playing. I can see why this is going to drag out for, months on out. He said, what comes to the dark comes to the... Yeah, like you snitching right now, right?
But was that widely known? Doug was hanging around, was like protected by cops.
Wow, he's now snitching on Suge Knight, paying off cops. Keefe D is snitching on Suge Knight, paying off cops. You got to admit, though, that is pretty remarkable for Suge Knight at that time to be able to have the power of the police in his hands. By the way, this is also the reason why, Compton PD has been knocked down and turned into a sheriff's office because of the rampant corruption going on there.
Was there ever a time when you felt bad about Tupac? Yeah.
Oh my God. So now he's snitching on a Colombian guy that now doesn't want to do business with him because he's hot after shooting Tupac. Yo, hundreds of millions. Can you imagine that? So back in the days, Keefe D is now admitting that he was working with a bunch of Colombians. On top of that, um, now he's talking about the fact that he wanted nothing to do with him because of how hot he became after shooting Tupac. Victory says, have you watched Steven Strangle's guys yet? You know what, Marty? No, I haven't. See, the thing is, um, not that I don't want to, but it's just that, when you become a content creator yourself, sometimes it becomes a choice of, do I take this time to consume or do I take this time to produce? And then oftentimes, in my free time, I will take the time to produce, which is what I'm doing right now, producing content. And yeah, it's just sometimes, the busyness of it comes with a choice of, you're either going to be the consumer or the producer. And if you've got a winner's mindset, baby, you want to be the producer most of the time, inshallah. But yes, when I do get to Steven Strangles, we will discuss that further. Sabachi Financial, shout out to you. He says, yee. All right, here we go. Let's hear what Keefe D talking about right now. So keep in mind, guys, right? So far, this is what we got, right? This is what we gathered so far. Keefe D not only snitched on Suge Knight for having cops being paid off by him, he snitched on a Colombian guy that was supposed to be his plug. So he said, after the Colombian guy knew that I word on the streets that we hit up Tupac, he decided to run back to Colombia. And he said that he lost about 130 million. 130 million, he said. Savachi with the microphone and a rat emoji. This is all the things that Keefe D is divulging right now, right? So he's snitching on a bunch of Colombians that have no name, right? Probably, I mean, for all intents and purposes, any law enforcement official that was looking into what was going on back then, for sure they had suspicions on that Colombian guy. Now they have full evidence on him based on this, and now there's confirmation that. But they've always had this information out, though, right? Remember, a lot of this information they have put out on podcasts, on different platforms and things of that nature. And yeah, man. He says jar of pickles. Well, what do you mean by that? Jar of pickles. Xavier, I don't know what you mean by that. But yeah, man. So there's a lot going on here, right? So Keefe D is divulging a whole lot of different information that quite frankly, he shouldn't have. But we kind of knew all along that he was. He says Ali Abdelaziz is a rat. They say. Well, that one is a little bit more complicated, right? Because here's the thing, right? Who in the organizations that they say that allegedly Ali Abdelaziz worked for, who has been arrested? What terrorist, alleged terrorist, has been arrested under Ali Abdelaziz? Right? There's a lot of complicated matters that come with that, with Ali Abdelaziz. And it goes beyond just any Conor McGregor one line picker upper. Really, um, a lot more complicated than you think. All right, so now Keefe, he's talking about how him and Suge grew up together. They arrested some terrorists from Khabib's gym. Yes, I remember that. I actually have a video on that as well. Go check it out, by the way. Go check it out on my yeah, he says Ali Intel. Um okay, you're Stan Beagle. Here's what I will say. You're in the right place. That's what I will say. You're in the right place with what you're talking about. Um but what we're seeing out of Keefe D right now, you'll never see this out of Ali, right? You don't have paperwork like this on Ali. Um, was Ali a paid informant from the FBI? We don't know for certain, right? Because for sure he's been interviewed by the FBI before, right? Because if you're being suspected of being anything, right, they're going to talk to you. But is there any indication that he actually did take money from them? And is there a real FBI agent out there that can say, hey, you know what? I was working the Ali Abdelaziz case at this time. So, yeah. Keefe D, on the other hand, he's over here talking about Colombians, Suge Knight with cops, Suge Knight paying cops off, talking about what his nephew did to Tupac. He's divulging all of that. And he divulged, man, he made 130 million. 130 million, he said. That's so, man, you look at Keefe D right now, he looks like, straight dusty, old, broken down, right? But back in the days, man, Keefe D was, he looked like a real shot caller, man. Let's see here. Let's take a look at what Keefe D looked like back in the days. I'm going to show you a picture of Keefe D back in the day. Um, okay, yeah, I suppose that's a decent picture of him back in the days. Um, no, that's not it. That's Snoop and Pac. Look at this. Look at this picture of Keefe back in the days. Look at that straight mobster look and all that, dripped out and everything. So now, now you look at that. You look at that picture, and now you look at this. That's what you got now. Completely different guy, man. Completely different guy. But Yeah, so this trial is still ongoing right now. Really, this is all that I really have for you on this one right now. We talked a little bit about some MMA. We talked a little bit about some Keefe D. Let me read this comment right here. Douglas Pat Jin says Ali was far more intelligent enough to bargain the illusion of him snitching in exchange for his freedom. This dude was already free and snitched his freedom away for free for no reason. Night and day. Yep, exactly. Exactly. That right there is the perfect segue to end it. I'm going to read that comment once again, right? The difference between Ali Abdelaziz and the difference between Keefe D is this. According to Douglas, Ali was far more intelligent, okay, enough to bargain with the illusion of him snitching in exchange for his freedom, and his dude was already free and snitched his freedom away for no reason. That is night and day. There it is. You know what? I think I'll continue on. I'll continue the streaming and see where this goes right here. So let's continue on from here.
I guess his money gave him the power. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people listen to it. You know, money is power. You know, and shit, I guess they, well, we didn't use the power, the Chris did. I know our side of town did, because we played football with the guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I want to go back to the Biggie guy. Where were you, and how did you hear the Biggie guy? The first guy. Almost done. Just 5 more minutes, I promise. Okay. Where were you, and how did you hear that Biggie had died? I was in the parking garage. Everybody ran back in the parking garage and said, "This is Caribbean! This is Caribbean!" I'm like, "What?" Damn, that was fucked up. By then, all the other things was there. I was waiting in my car to get validated out of there and shit. Validated out of there. Yeah, 3 days later, I guess Compton police and fucking motherfuckers came get me over shit. I was really like the poor guy. He fucked over me, man. Fucked over my life. But they cleared you, right? I mean, you're not. My life been fucked over ever since, homie. Just don't understand, you know. And I still gotta watch people. You know what I'm saying? He violated my civil rights, my everything, dude. You know what I'm saying? Did you recall, did you suspect that somebody was casing the party? Casing the party? Yeah. You know what? He was up there. The brothers was there. They came up there. I can't talk to them. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be careful. They niggas up here. Alright. So it went down. Yeah. Sad. You know, they come up here and get hit up on this is who out here in the jungle. Y'all come up from that little punk ass town and all the shit. Get your ass up out here, bro. It's nothing. It's real. I mean, this is 20, 30, years. Did you really look the week out here? Yeah. How'd you feel about Biggie dying since you knew him personally? Oh, they kind of fucked me up, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It Biggie got killed, kind of fucked me up. I'm saying on it and everything, man. Fucked up on it. And he police that cops and put that all in the meter, like we get that bullshit just to get the uniform in his ass. You know what I'm saying? It's all gonna come out. It's coming out every day, you know, boy. It ain't hate. Yeah. All right, but I'm gonna touch you. Yeah, all right. Well, all right. Just sit here for 20 seconds with no sound. Don't make any sound. You start record the tone of the room. This is room. Oh. Yeah, that's a good. It's on our street. All right, sit there. Yeah, sit back. This question, real quick. Wait, I think you were done. That was your only question before. Okay. So why baby lane? Why did you call him baby lane? Why does it let him? Yeah, tell me that. Because he was born on verse. Like, tell me the whole stuff, like the sentence. The legend was called baby lane because the legend was called baby lane because he was born on verse lane. Straight verse. It's going line. Short line. So he took my street name. And his pops was green line. And his mom was king. And his mom was so. And the baby isn't because he had a baby face. No. Baby name. Short bar street. Right. Keefe, we had like 3 Keefes in our hood. So they just broke them down. And they just put Keefe D on it. So they give you the initials. Yeah. They separate from the others. Other shit. And that shit just went like a wild over. Blew up. Got wins. And all the wins. Don't put that on there. I like it. Yeah. Yeah, this is not my wife on the phone in the car. This is definitely the last one. Okay. I live in Mexico. Yeah. On double MK, there's a dude that's I can't do the rim room. You know, come fathers. So, you know, come fathers. That's where our is. Our youngest in members is called PS. We don't like about 6 different generations. Yeah. Thank you. My wife was on the car too. And she's almost, she's right. So why don't you go ahead and talk to you? And talk. You know, things still happen for you. We just talk about that and leave it at that. But these guys are expecting details from that night. Okay. So, just, yeah, you know, I don't want to put you in this. And you can just be on this. And I'll show you that. Yeah. It's major players on the he's head of U.S. Attorney in this area. Yeah. No, like I said, we don't remove that. No, I'm going to jail to fucking tell you. They're on one. On a jail. No, what you gotta do? And then can we set up a date? In order, like an actual date where like there's no misunderstanding, you're here for this. Or we can come out to Vegas and go back, because what I wanted to do is for you to take us. Yeah, right. You know, we never, you know, like the dude, I think it's wrong. At the airport, he just put a face on. You know, he's a fool. You know, you know,
What if the communicate performance was having a team that works together? Physical health, mental health, whole body health. Casa Permanente, a better idea for healthcare. Let's see, we've been going for about an hour and a half. Ladies and gentlemen, Jerry, you guys have to take a restroom break. Anyone? Raise your hand. Okay. If you want to just do maybe another half hour and then we'll take our lunch break. Okay, perfect. Do you need to use the restroom? Oh, all right, we will have to take our break now. So we will take a recess. During the recess, you are admonished not to talk to nurse, not to consult with anyone else on any subject connected to the trial, or rewatch listening report of the commentary of the trial. Of any person attached to this case, finding need for information, including without limitation, newspaper, television, internet, radio, or form of express any opinion on any subject connected to the trial until it is submitted to you. Please rise for the jury. We'll see you guys back here at, let's say, 11:30. 11:30. We're just gonna take this word. Right, so. The record, the jury says that the jurors, when we get back to another 30, 45 minutes or so, we have lunch coming some more around noon, so if you want to break now, I might get time to eat. All right, we'll be in recess. Sure. Okay.
All right, guys. AR says, hi, Kyrie. Hi, Kyrie in chat. How are you? Like and subscribe. Thanks. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. Let me read some of these comments before we head out. Obviously, they are taking a recess right now in court. I don't know if I'm going to be covering it after that. I will cover something else later on, though, some more UFC, MMA related stuff. Let me see here. Let me read some of these comments. Okay, so Ilya Topora versus Paddy Pimblett is rumored for UFC 335. Okay, and this is according to Scandabigo. December 12th, that is. Okay, it's no way. Really? Wow. I said Paddy and Topuria. This is a long time coming. Obviously, there's a built-in beef and storyline going on with that. Let's get this thing cracking. Paddy will end Toporia's career. Connor Siller, BJJ, shout out to you, my man. My Irishman in San Diego, shout out to you. Paddy subs Ilya round 2. That's a bold prediction right there. Aaron Mega says Paddy will eat Topuria as a snack. Scandabigo says Trump unleashes Operation Economic Outcast against Iran. Isn't U.S. and Europe more sensitive to this war? I would say so, yes. Scandabigo says, haha, Toporo. Iran smashed Trump so far. I laughed at that. And Scandabigo says, Scott Vestment, an economic D-Day is coming for Iran. Massive propaganda before the midterms. It reminds me of the Democrats accusing the GOP of things themselves were guilty of. Scandabigo says, Kamala Salami. All right. And with that, I don't want to end it with Kamala Salami, but whatever. Like and subscribe, guys. This has been day 6 of Keefe D's trial. We started following it from the very beginning. I don't know if I will, follow the trial later on afterwards, but I will come back and follow and cover more UFC related stuff. So like and subscribe. See you guys in the next one, inshallah.